All right. So, with all of these people and all of these situations that I've been in, well, a lot of you guys, you want to say that people who are autistic don't understand anything social. We understand your body language, which means that we know when you're lying. When your words don't match up with your body, we're going to take your words because in a court of law, that's what matters. Your words. Now, your body language, and I've seen this many times where a woman will say that she's not attracted to a man, but then she hovers over him, does the hip rocking and things like that. Like, yeah, when you do things like that to a dude, he can tell usually that you're interested in him, despite the fact that your words aren't matching up. Now, probably three-quarters of the women that I know in this town are with dudes who they pretended they weren't interested in verbally, but physically were giving signs they were attracted to him. And he picked up on those signs. Me, I'm not going to pick up on those signs. I'm going to intentionally not pick up on those signs. I'm going out of my way not to do that. When it comes to women, I pretend all women are lesbians. That's not because they're all lesbians or because I think any less of them or I think any less of lesbians. It's because I don't want sex to even enter the mix as a thought. All right. I have seen what that does and I'm just not interested. If a woman is not attracted to me, but makes the assumption that I'm attracted to her because I'm being nice to her, well, that might be creepy to her. Now, meanwhile, I'm just being nice. Now, that whole perspective thing for police officers, a lot of y'all are like, well, there's a lot of good cops out there. And then there's a lot of y'all who are like, well, if the good cops aren't turning into bad cops, are they really good cops? With most of these people, they didn't want to make their families unhappy. With Justine, the day that she was going to help me, the reason that she didn't help me, and I only know this because of her brother in law, Officer or former Officer William Barr, Colorado, he told me that her family told her not to help me. She didn't bother to tell me that. They didn't bother to tell me that. I went over there in the morning when Justine told me to go over there and waited all day. And at night, after spending almost the whole day there with things that I have to get done, they need to get done. Now, at this point, it's obviously too late. I mean, it's 2020 and this shit happened in 2018. But I got to try to look at people's perspective. I look at people who are in families and have families and their personality type. And I run scenarios in my head based on their personality type, based on my understanding of the world. And my understanding of the world is right. And you show me that with your behaviors by repeatedly doing what it is that I already knew that you were going to do and already spoke out about. This is also because my brain establishes patterns. Human nature is a pattern. Here's the reason for this. We're all humans. We all have emotions. We all have emotional responses. Our emotional responses are the same. Y'all can't tell the difference between a psychopath and an autistic person, for Christ's fucking sake. But you want to make decisions based on your fucked up non understanding of things. Like a lot of you fucking idiots are of the understanding that OCD is got the word obsessive in it, so you must be a stalker because you got OCD. No, I fold up the top of my cigarette pack weird because I have OCD. I have to fold it up into a nice, neat little square before I throw it away, or it's gonna bug me all fucking day. No pills don't help with that. No pills have never helped with that. Now, with a lot of these people that are not cops, the reason that I'm going to use them as an example first is because I want you to establish that the emotions that these cops are going through are emotions that humans experience by explaining to you humans that are not cops. Candace Bondurant did some fucked up shit to me. Why did she do that fucked up shit? Because she was scared. Because she was scared. She straight up stabbed me in the fucking back and did all sorts of fucked up bullshit because she was scared. Scared of the police, scared of being targeted. And she was targeted. That's the biggest thing right there, is that Candace was targeted within hours of me arriving at her house. And she wasn't just targeted by those people. When the police were trying to pull whatever fucked up bullshit they could because they assumed that I was guilty. And they're calling these other departments and saying, hey, fucking pinch this dude, pinch this dude, pinch this dude. And that's what the cops did across jurisdictional boundaries repeatedly. And that's in the state of Colorado. State of Nebraska, they did the same fucking thing. These cops did everything that they could to abuse the system that you pay them money to do this, by the way. You're paying these people to commit criminal acts against disabled victims. You are paying these people to victimize someone who is trying to tell them about the victimization that they're enduring. With Candace Bondurant, she was scared. And when Officer Michael Beard came and harassed her twice after that phone call with Shelley, and she was threatened with being thrown out into the snow, her and her two children. And it was cold that January. January of 2018 in Haxton, Colorado was fucking cold. And Candace Bondurant works at the hospital there. When she's got cops coming into her work and talking to her, this is a small town. You can't have that. And that officer was also there to harass her on her way to work or on her way to take her kids to school. I'm sorry. And I've proven that. I've posted up the screenshots, but you don't see this in any of these Natalie Bollinger groups, do you? They don't want to show that part. They don't want to show any of the parts where people were threatening my life. They don't. A lot of that stuff I posted up on Facebook and I got 30-day ban for it. I got put on 30-day bans because I took screenshots of threats against my life. That's punishing me for being victimized. These people work together and they coordinate. Some of them because they don't want their families to not love them. Like Ted's got a lot of fucking kids. He stuck his dick in a lot of meth lords. It happens. So you don't want Ted to have to go through the fact that his kids might not like him because he did that. Or they might hate you because of the whole situation, because they're not seeing their dad. These people protected their own predator. Ted Bollinger was Natalie's predator. All right? And not just Natalie's predator, Alicia's predator, Danica Garner's predator, Rose M. Kelly, aka Rose M. Self's predator. Rochelle Shelley Campbell and Danica Garner. These are Natalie's two ex-stepmothers. Both of them scared shitless of Ted. That was why that pocket dial was important. First, Miss Shelley fed me a whole bunch of stuff about how afraid she was that Ted was going to come harm her or the children. Same thing with Danica. And then the very next day, she pocket dialed me like that, made it sound like there was a scuffle, and I called 911. That was the right thing for me to do. But because I called 911, that officer used that as an excuse to not come talk to me, the source, but to actually harass the person who is trying to help me. And Candace has done a lot of fucked up shit since then, but you can listen to the conversation with me and her mother outside of Pumpkin Pantry. Her mom is all sorts of pissed off that I recorded that and put it up on the internet. Lori Dale, I'm going to tell you something. Maybe you should tell your daughter to fucking man up. You don't want to deal with your daughter's bullshit? You shouldn't have gotten involved to begin with. You should have minded your own fucking business. But you didn't. You did harmful things to me because you made bad assumptions. It wasn't just your daughter who did this fucked up shit. Now with the police. Hearing about that situation with Candace, you can't help but feel bad for Candace, despite the fact that she did fucked up shit because of it. You also understand why. It's the same thing for a police officer. And I'm going to give you an example from that last set of stories. William Barr, again. William Barr, when I was talking to him that day that Justine promised that she was going to help me and didn't. This is after he had already spoken to me on the phone a few days earlier. The first time that I went to McIntosh Dairy, which is where Natalie Bollinger was killed. And while I was there, I called him up. You know, I left my Bible there, and I left a sword and a wooden sword and a wooden dagger there for her. And Will told me that that Craigslist ad was real. Now, mind you, William was a cop. He also worked with the cops when he was no longer an officer in criminal investigations, specifically internet investigations. So Will told me that it was real, William Barr, and I've posted his picture up here on my YouTube, by the way, and some of my videos. And make sure y'all can identify these people. But Will, he told me here in chapel on the day that Justine was supposed to help me. He was telling me about those 5 people in Denver who looked like me who were killed. He said, you know, homeless people are killed in Denver all the time. And I took that as a valid excuse. But also, that's only because it just goes to show the point. Those 5 people who looked like me who were murdered in Denver were homeless. And how much of that did you see on the news? That was people who wanted to take out their aggression. This is like when a bunch of neo-Nazis, they use one black person who did something wrong as an excuse to go out and harm a bunch of people. They can't take it out on that black person, so they take it out on the next black person down the road. Kind of like when during the Rodney King riots, instead of going after the police and smacking them down, they grabbed a white trucker out of his vehicle and beat him down. Yeah, that white trucker didn't have nothing to do with Rodney King, but he still got beat down. Now, that was a black on white crime that I used as an example to fortify the original example, which is the opposite. A bunch of white people beating a black person down. Which one do you actually care about, though? You care about one white heroin addict who destroyed people's lives more than you care about 5 innocent people who were murdered just for looking like someone who was falsely accused. With these officers, Will has a family. He married Jessica Martindale. He's got kids. If he loses his job as a police officer, he has to worry about that shit. About not being able to take care of his kids, about not being able to feed his kids, about being thrown out in the snow by his landlord. If he speaks up against his fellow officers, then he will be retaliated against further than he already has. How did they retaliate against Will and why? I'll tell you. He had a partner who was actually stalking a woman. Unlike the bullshit that I had to deal with, where I was being stalked because somebody pretended. Train. His partner was not only stalking a woman, bragging about it. Will arrested his own partner. That is a good police officer. What happened to Will because he did that? The charges against his fellow officer were immediately dropped and he lost his job. So now he's not a good officer because he's not an officer. But also, he's afraid of retaliation because he's already been retaliated against. He knows it is a very real possibility. And he's intimidated, same as Candace. And fuck yes, I tell these people they're cowards. Every officer who turns a blind eye to the actions of their fellow officers, you're a fucking coward. Candace Bondurant, you're a fucking coward. Lori Dale, you're a fucking coward. Katie Cahill, you're a fucking coward. Danica Garner, you're a fucking coward. Waylon Lolatai, you're a fucking coward. Officer McRae, you're a fucking coward. Officer Burke, you're a fucking coward. There are a lot of fucking cowards out there. But you know what cowards do? They gang up on you when you defend yourself. Like when you get gang raped. Or you might not even get gang raped. You might just get raped by somebody who's getting jumped into the gang. But if you say something, you have to deal with that entire gang coming down on you. It don't matter if it's the Crips, the Bloods, or the Boulder fucking Police Department. A gang is a motherfucking gang. Crystal Bocom. She just wanted to be a good mother. Then she was raped by a Boulder police officer, locked up in a loony bin, and given injections of the very same shit that they put into me. They took away her kid and fucked up her entire life because she spoke out when she was raped by a Boulder police officer. But then when you're an officer, you make jokes with these fellow officers. You have meetings together with these guys. You have lunch together. You have court together. You want to believe this guy just because he's wearing the badge. You want to assume that he would never do anything wrong because he's an officer like you. So when somebody says, hey, I need to make a report about this guy, you break the law because you assume that this officer, this fellow officer, could do no wrong. And you have literally done wrong. You have literally become a corrupt cop in that moment because you made a judgment. It's not your place to judge. You're law enforcement. Making a judgment call, I can see that. I can. But if that judgment call means that you're not even going to listen to one side of the story and you're not going to look at evidence, then you have not made a judgment call. You have played judge, jury, and executioner. Because now, not all of the evidence is going to go to court. Just the part that somebody wanted to manipulate. Just like people try to use the Bible to say that it's okay to kill Muslims, or it's okay to kill homosexuals, or it's okay to own slaves. I pay attention in history. I pay very close attention. Now we get to hear from all these fucking ignorant ass Southerners about how they seceded from the Union because of states' rights. No, literally one state's right. The right to own human beings and treat them worse than you would treat a pack animal. Worse. You are not going to string up a pack animal and fucking lash it until its back is fucking shredded. You're just not going to do that. You're not going to hang a pack animal in front of the other pack animals to get the other pack animals to listen to you. When a police officer sees another officer doing something wrong, that officer immediately becomes afraid. They just saw another officer do something wrong. Now, we all understand human nature. We all know that dude who, well, he's a cock blocker. He says, dude, you don't want her. She's a dumb whore. Even though she's flirting with you and she's always been nice to you, this dude's like, nah, dude, she's a dumb whore. She's a dumb whore. You know, you don't want her. I wouldn't fuck her. She's fucking diseased. And then at the end of the night, he's been feeding her drinks all night, and he goes and he has sex with her. And then he tells her all about how terrible a person that you are. And you're following the man laws, because if you don't, you get ostracized by a whole bunch of men. Oh man, you don't do that to another dude. You don't fucking tell his wife that he's cheating on her. If his wife is my friend, you goddamn right I will. I can also tell you from experience how well that goes over. Now, I'm going to tell you something that doesn't involve cheating, because people don't want their sexual business out there and in the open. My older brother he's not a sexual predator, he's just a sexual deviant. If you understand the difference, you understand that morally being a sexual deviant doesn't necessarily make you a bad person. I know a lot of women who want to be choked during sex, and they voice this to me, like, well, that's definitely not the woman for me. Immediately, my response to that is, I wouldn't date you. Now, there was a girl named Arabella Cleveland. Now, Arabella Cleveland has shitty taste in men. And every time that she dated a dude and had issues, mind you, she's a whiner who fucking starts bleeding over shit that nobody gets pissed off about. I mean, you have to have zero self-esteem to be afraid of these situations and shit, and to have the reaction and response that she has. Anyway, so she's not interested in my brother or whatever sexually, but the thing is, we've had the conversation about, if a guy's doing that, I wish a guy would tell me. If a guy told me that, I would have a lot more respect for a guy who told me that than I would for a guy who didn't. So my brother, for like 2 weeks, keeps on talking about how Arabella keeps coming down and annoying the shit out of him, and he just wants to fuck her and tell her to go away. And he's telling me this shit. Arabella is my friend. Eric is my brother. Who am I going to be loyal to? The one who's morally right. Arabella, she's going to hang out with my brother because my brother is feeding her attention, and she's got this stuff that she's asking about, and she's got this rabbit fur that she wants to put on her boots, and I remember all of this. Arabella was a good friend, and she was asking my brother about all these things that she was totally interested in, and stuff that, she sees him down there doing the beating thing and the wrapping thing where he's wrapping up the rocks with the wire and all that kind of stuff, and making dream catchers sometimes people. So she's thinking they got something mutually in common, and she's trying to make a connection with that. She's trying to be friendly. Oh, my older brother, he's not telling her the things that he's telling me. And then I've got the burden of him getting me involved. I don't want to know this shit. First of all, I don't want to have the fact that I'm keeping secrets from my loved ones. I'm not going to keep that secret from Arabella. And if it was the other way around, I wouldn't keep that secret from my brother. So I told Arabella. And you know what she did? She got pissed off at me. Treated me completely like shit. Told me I was some sort of a terrible person. Because I let her know that my older brother just wanted to fuck her. And then I'm the demon. I'm the devil. I'm the bad person. There's a lot of officers who are stuck in fucked up situations. There's a lot of officers who see their fellow officers do bad shit, and they have seen enough officers lose their jobs for doing the right thing to know that they want to keep their job. You've been there for 5 years. You're getting a little bit of extra money, and you got 3 kids and a wife. You goddamn right you're going to turn a blind eye to them crooked cops. You don't want it coming down on your kids and your wife. Just like Candace Bondurant didn't want it coming down on her and her kids. See, Candace wasn't trying to be evil to me. She was trying to protect her kids from all of these predators who latched onto Natalie's case, latched onto me, and latched onto anybody who was trying to help me. You got no idea how many of my loved ones, how many people who were trying to help me had their lives threatened and the lives of their families threatened. You remember I was telling you that I got a bunch of Facebook bans for posting up pictures of the people who were threatening my life? Yeah. Cara Mia, aka Cara Rogers. She had 2 accounts because she got banned on Facebook for showing a picture that somebody had sent her. Somebody had gone onto her Facebook profile, took a picture of her minority son. Cara Rogers is a white lady, but her son is a black son. I don't know if he's half or if he's adopted, but they sent her racial slurs and drew a rope around her son's neck. And when she showed that to people, this is what people are doing. She got put on a Facebook ban for showing that. Now, there's a lot of stuff that I posted up around December that a lot of people wanted to take in such a completely fucked up way, as if I'm some sort of a terrible person for showing it. There was one of them was a picture of Santa Claus hanging from a rope. Why was that picture up? Because that picture was part of a campaign about holiday suicides, about specifically December suicides. I was highly suicidal in December of 2017. Natalie was highly suicidal in December of 2017. A lot of people were highly suicidal in December of 2017 and 2018 and 2019. And you know what? Natalie and I were both suicidal in October of 2018 while I was in Virginia. Both of us were fighting that hard. And she let me know on many occasions, including while I was in Virginia, that I was what was holding her together. I came up here to Candace's to recover from all the shit that I had to go through physically and mentally in Colorado. I was just supposed to be up here for 2 weeks. But then that car, David and Laura Nelson offered to sell me it They had me promise not to leave town until it was paid off, and I made that promise. And I kept it. And Natalie let me know that the only reason she was leaving Colorado to go to her mother's house was because I wasn't there. I was literally the only thing holding her in Colorado. Like, why would you stick around for me in Colorado like that? You don't need to do that. When she said she was going to her mom's, I thought that was a good thing. I thought her mom had changed. I thought her mom was going to help. But her mom's judgmental. Same as most people are. You're overly critical of everybody else, but not critical enough of yourself in the same things. We all know that we screw up, and we're hard enough on ourselves without other people throwing it in our faces. But then again, when we do the same thing that we're hating on someone else to doing to us, are we making the connection that we're doing those things too? Maybe those things that these people are doing to me that's hurting me so much, maybe that should be a lesson. Maybe I should think, hey, there are people I did that to. And maybe I shouldn't have done that. With all the shit that I had to go through with Natalie over crimes that I didn't commit, yeah, I admitted to my worst crime ever, my entire life. The worst thing that I have ever done, literally. And you know what that is? When I was in Centennial Peaks Hospital in Boulder, Colorado, I hated my stepdad, Scott. And for at least some degree, I blamed him for the fact that we couldn't live with Mom and her being wherever she was. At that time, I didn't know she was on cocaine. And you're in the system, they don't tell you that. I had to find that out years later. My dad told me when I was about 9. Now, these are all things that Will, that supposedly good officer, he would not be a good officer now. If he was hired back on at a police station, he would keep his mouth shut if his partner was stalking a woman. He would be too afraid to speak up. This man he's lame. You have clipped his balls. This is like having a stud, a horse, a male horse for breeding. This is like having a stud for breeding, and the very first thing you do is chop those things off. He can't do his job anymore. His job as a stud is to breed mares. And he can't do that because he's got no balls. William Barr, you have no balls. I've known your wife over 20 years. She's got more balls than you will ever have. Now, Jessica Martindale was one of my biggest crushes in high school. Bar none, my biggest crush in high school was probably Candace Bondurant. But that wasn't while I was in high school. That was after high school. I realized that I had a crush on her, a really big crush on her, when she explained to me one day how much train, how much she respected me for standing up to her older brother, how much she respected me for refusing to change for all of those ignorant people in the school that we went to, and all of the ignorant people in this town. That was around the time that she told me that her mom, Lori Dale, helped to prevent me from getting locked up because she spoke for me and said, hey, it's not right for you to judge him unfairly like that. Were you there for it? Don't gang up on him like that. You weren't there. Just don't. But my biggest crush while I was in high school